Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you would have seen from my previous video, if you watched that, I'm about to start a job in consulting and I'll be doing a graduate scheme within one of the big four firms. And today I want to give you 5 tips for your application and particularly for the final stage, which will be an interview either with a partner or a director at the department that you're applying to. And these tips are a combination of 1, the stuff that I've read when I was preparing for my interview, and 2, the things that I personally really wanted to focus on in preparation for the interview, but also during, that I feel really helped me to do well. So let's get into it. Number 1 is how you speak matters almost or maybe just as much as what you're actually saying. So when it comes to technology and Zoom interviews or any sort of remote interviews, if you look at the camera like I'm doing now when I'm speaking to you, the person on the other side of it feels like you're looking them in the eyes. And in the same way, when you are in person, you want to have eye contact with the interviewer, right? Because that's the way to build connection with them. And I think with technology, it's so easy to forget how the other person will be seeing you because you're really worried about how you look, and then you might be looking at the screen at yourself, which is what my tendency would have been if I didn't practice looking here. But it's really important that they feel like you're present with them. And I think one of the ways to make sure that they feel that is to look in the camera when you're speaking to them, if it is remotely. In addition to that, use your hands, like I'm always bloody using my hands. Smile so that they feel like you're approachable and friendly, because do remember that consulting is very heavily relying on people skills and communication skills, and this is one of them. And also when it comes to remote interviews, do remember that the camera takes away some of the energy. At least that's what I found when I record videos. I really find that I have to up my energy when I'm speaking to you so that you can get, say, like 70% of what I'm actually giving when I'm recording. And you have to just take extra steps when it comes to technology for that to come across. Number 2 might sound obvious, but be prepared with your answers. And what I mean in particular is obviously you're going to prepare things that you've not thought about in your daily life, like tell me about the cases of leadership, stuff like that, the standard interview questions. You do prepare those, but be also prepared to speak about yourself. Say if they ask you to, tell me about yourself, the most obvious opener ever. If you've not practiced that answer before, even though obviously you are you and you know who you are, it might be hard to really come up with a well-rounded and succinct answer to that question if you've not practiced it before. So even if it's things related to you as a person, things that seem like basic stuff that you would know about yourself, practice speaking it out loud and communicating it, and know how you'll formulate your answer when it comes to those things, in addition to obviously preparing your answers to the standard interview questions too. Number 3, time management is very important, and that applies to other stages of the application process as well. If you would have done the job simulation, if you have something like that, or like a virtual assessment center where you have the higher view interview, which is what I had, those things test your time management skills. And in the same way, when it's an interview with another person, with a director, with a partner, you have to be very aware of time and how long you take to answer a question. So for example, if they ask you a very basic question, like a small one, don't go rambling on for minutes and minutes. And if it's more about a few examples of something, obviously that's going to take you longer. Things like that test out your time management skills, but also social skills. Because in the same way that in a conversation with someone, you really notice when you're talking to another person and then they're the person who takes all of the time. And then you're like, damn, like I'm really stuck here while this guy tells me his life story kind of thing. So don't be that person in an interview. Use that common sense to judge the amount of time that you need to take for something. Tip number 4 is the importance of confidence and having a story about yourself and about why you're going into consulting, why you're choosing this firm that is believable and ideally also true. So depending on where you're at, if you're truthfully really into consulting, you really are into this firm, amazing. have a story to tell which will explain your background and how it has led you to this point. If you're not at that point, and if you just want to get into that firm and you just want to get into consulting, still have a story that is believable. So that's like the non-official advice. It's just the obvious and more honest advice. If you've had some random experiences, if you've already had a bit of working time after your graduation, for example, like I did in my case. If you don't know my background, I graduated from LSE in 2018 and then UCL in 2019, and I applied for this job in 2021. So that means that I've had a couple years of working experience, and my working experience was not consulting related by any means. I started working in events first, and I was helping out the founder of a dance company. Then I moved into the field of art therapy, and I was working within marketing and communications in that. So as you can see, it's not a typical background to go into consulting with. But the good thing about consulting is that it's so accepting of a variety of backgrounds, a variety of work experiences. And in my case, what I found really important to do and to prepare is the story of why, after all those experiences, which were in other fields, I came to consulting. And for me, I talked about things like within my experiences, I worked a lot with clients in one of my jobs because I would be the first point of contact. So I have experience communicating with different people. Equally, in my art therapy job, one of the things that I communicated about that work experience is that I got into a completely new field for me. That means that I am able to take an industry that I'm not familiar with and really explore it, understand it, and work effectively in it. And that matters for consulting as well because, as you would know, you are able to work across different industries. And usually, if you're applying for a graduate scheme, your first few projects will kind of be different. And then maybe after a year or 2 years, you will specialize in a more niche way. So all of that is just to give you an example of how you can take an experience which is not a typical consulting related experience, and you can make a story of how that has led you to consulting and why you think you would be good at it. Final number 5 is very specific to the interview, and it's you have to adjust to the person you're speaking with. If they're very serious and strict, you have to adjust to that. If the interviewer is more bantery and joke and conversational, you have to adjust to that as well. And in my case, I was so lucky. My interview was very enjoyable, was very conversational. After a bit of time and after a bit of speaking with the person who was interviewing me, I could kind of tell that we'd probably get along outside of work as well, and that she would make some jokes here and there, and that meant that I could also throw in a bit of that and show a bit more of my actual non-work self. Naturally, if you're interviewing someone, you want to see whether you get along with them or not on a personal level. And I think one of the ways to show your communication skills is to adjust to your interviewer, which is something that you'll have to do anyway with clients and with your colleagues. But it's very important to sense out the vibe and just understand what their way of speaking to you is. And then from that, you'll know how you should communicate with them. So that's all I wanted to share today. If that was helpful, please let me know. If there are particular topics within the consulting stuff that you would like to know about, obviously I haven't started yet, so it's more about the application process for now, but I'll get into the day in the lives and how I find it when I start. But for now, tell me the topics you're interested in, consulting or otherwise, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.